Now the thing with the bounce effect is that when the ball comes in contact with the floor, it needs to have some sort of pressure. But if you choose to make this ball like a metal ball, then that's another issue. But for now, I'm going to create kind of a squish and stretch effect every time it hits the ground, and that way it will look more natural. Hit S on your keyboard on the circle layer, unlink the two shapes, create a keyframe, hit U, so now we can see X, Y, and scale. And essentially what we're going to do is to create a keyframe right when this guy is on the ground. So when it's down, this is the ground keyframes. I'm going to move this guy right here, our first keyframe. And what we want to do is to hold down Command or Control, use your left and right arrow keys to move in a few frames before this, before it comes into contact with the ground. Make another keyframe for scale. So 3 frames on the left, 3 frames on the right. Make another keyframe. And what you want to do is to go to that frame on the left and kind of stretch this ball upwards using the Y value. So just stretch this ball like this. And when it comes into contact, it needs to kind of get squished. So remove from the Y. Looks kind of squished right now. And change the anchor point right when it comes in contact with the ground. So just grab Y and bring the anchor point up like this. Then on the scale, this time we're going to kind of squish down the ball to squish this guy. And we may have to edit our Y position, just bring it down. At the start, I'm also going to grab the anchor point and push it to the bottom of my shape. So from the beginning, it's just looking like this, and it's kind of gets squashed when it reaches the ground. So it's not quite reaching the ground, so go back to position Y and move these guys until it reaches the ground. There we go. Now before it comes in contact with the wall, the floor, I'm gonna go back like 2 frames on the scale and just turn the scale back to 100 so that it's normal. And then it slowly stretches out before getting squashed. Let's actually make it normal here. So drag this guy back. Slowly it's going to stretch out and then do that. Let's also copy this keyframe. I'm going to hit S so we can focus on S right now. So in the beginning here, after its first bounce, this is the highest point. Around here, we're going to make a keyframe so that it's normal. Then right before it hits the floor point, we're going to stretch it out with Y. So I wrote 119%, stretched out like this. It hits the ground, it becomes squished. And now in the next keyframe, we're going to go for a number that's less than 119. Let's try 114. It is stretched out, but not as much as the first one. Then copy the first keyframe, that's normal. Let's count the frames, 8 frames. So go on the last keyframe, hold down Command Shift, right arrow key, Control Shift, right arrow key on Windows. Then move back 2 frames with Control left arrow key. And then copy this keyframe, Command C, Command V. So now I'm going to hit N here so we can see a loop. It's going to come in, get stretched out, and then it gets squished. Bring this guy back. And now we want to repeat this on all the other jumps that it has. So after it does this jump, I'm going to copy this again. Around here, we're going to copy this, but every time it gets less. So last time we did 114, should do 110. Get stretched out like this. Let's see what number we kept for the middle one, 61%. We're going to go to where it hits the ground and do a number that's a little more than 61%, like 67%. I'm going to move this guy a little closer. So it goes like this, gets squished again. Around here, we want it to be stretched out one more time. 110%, 108%. So it gets squished, comes back to normal. Then around here, we want it to be normal. So get the first keyframe, Command C, Command V. And by normal, I mean the regular circle shape. Then copy the normal keyframe here as well, so that it only gets flat or stretchy when it's about to hit the middle point. So I'm just going to go over the keyframes just because there's a lot. So here it's 100, 100. Next keyframe, we got 100, 119, 161, and this is the Y position, by the way. 100, 114, 100, 100. Normal keyframe again. We can actually delete this one. So it's 100, 100. Next one is the same. Then we go 100, 110, 67, 108, and then back to 100. So now repeat this for the final jump. So it's normal until here. Paste the keyframe that's 100, 100. Around here, we're going to stretch this out. Let me just see what number we kept here. 110. So here I will do 106 on the Y. Then when it reaches the ground, we're going to squeeze it in like 75. So it kind of goes in like this. When it's done bouncing, we're going to bring it back to 104. Then finally, before it reaches the high point, we're going to make it 100, 100. So now when we look at this, we're going to get a nice squeezing effect for our ball. Hit U on circle, and now we can see all of our keyframes. The problem is that every time we stretch this out, it's towards the sky, even though we have a curve. So now we're going to hit R on our circle and introduce another transform property. Hit U on your keyboard, and now every time that we are using the scale to stretch this out, I'm going to go on that and use the rotation to rotate it towards the curve. So -20 will do nicely. Next keyframe, wanted to go back to normal, so type in 0. Next keyframe, again, we have to go towards the other side, so 30%. Next keyframe, back to normal. So now it's going to do that. I think our values are a bit too much. -5 here. Next keyframe, we'll do +10. So it's not that much of a rotation. It's very slight. And now just repeat this on all the other layers. When it's normal, we're gonna, when it's here, match it with this keyframe, make it 0. Move into your next scale keyframe and type in the same amount, -10. So it rotates slightly towards the left. It hits the ground, needs to be -5. Let's try 0 this time. Next keyframe, it will go back to +10. And then back to 0. Play this back. Bounces like this. Repeat this one more time for your final transformation. So now we have a nice bouncing effect for our ball. Easy ease the keyframes for scale. And we get something like this. I will also add a rotation right after the ball has landed. Type in 30 degrees. Back to position X, I'm just gonna move it out of frame. So it kind of rolls towards the side and exits the screen. You can increase the rotation. We'll come back for this later. So now we get the ball effect. And then it just rolls out. It's a bit too fast, so we may have to increase our composition length. Instead of 7 seconds, let's go for 12. Increase the last 2 keyframes just so we get to see that roll off in a slower way. There we go. Let's stretch out the background and the floor as well so we get everything for a bit longer. Now hit N on your keyboard and we got ourselves a nice bounce effect. So now we got a base to add our layer styles to. In the next lesson, we're going to add the layer style and just make this look more 3D. So I'll see you guys in the next lesson.